Look good, smell good. Hair done, nails did, everything did.
Yeah.
Makes you clean.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a song that I don't know.
Yeah, it is a song. Even I know
It
it.
is a song. Yes. Everybody, all the Gen Zers, Gen Y, and some Gen X, you guys know that song. Leave it in the comments.
Yeah.
I am in the house. Gen X doesn't do much, so I didn't know that.
God.
You know what song
You
I thought of
Fancy?
though?
Oh, You Fancy.
Oh, You
huh?
Fancy, huh?
Yeah.
Is that what that
That's
is?
the
Yes.
same song.
Okay, I didn't know those were the words. I didn't know
It's like the main part of the song.
Good. Okay.
No, not
I
look
just know
good,
You
smell
Fancy.
good.
It's hair
done, nails done, everything did.
Okay, cool. That's cool.
Yes.
I made me think of Johnny Gill. My. Put on your red dress.
Oh my goodness, that's very
And
Gen
put
X
on
of
them
you.
high heels. And put on that sweet perfume.
And that's why I was like, what's about to go down?
What is going on, XYZers, XYZ Nation? We back in the building.
Yes.
Building's falling apart a little bit, but we here.
Yes.
We here, the proverbial building.
It's like
Yeah.
2 hours after our normal start time, but
Yeah.
we're making it.
man.
We're making it.
We're making it work. I've been sounding like the old curmudgeon. Oh, do it that way.
You know what, Chris? We forgot to open up in prayer, and that's probably why all this fell apart.
You know what? Because it didn't go smoothly.
Yeah.
Right. We're just like, all right, get it done.
Yep.
Yeah, we were complaining a lot, and not. We were being Naomi.
No, we were.
We were being bitter.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
When we should have been.
I kind of had that energy too.
You did.
Yes.
Actually.
Yes.
Oh.
Instead of finding your shelter
Yeah.
in Christ.
I was being bitter.
Y'all weren't privy to all of the things we were dealing with.
All right, so we gotta pray. We'll be right back. Amen.
Amen.
Don't you feel better? I feel better. Let's go.
That's what we needed.
I feel better, yes.
Just
But
some
I'd feel
prayer.
even better if we did our intro. So
Oh,
yes,
yes.
I am the latchkeyed one himself, the former X-Man, Chris representing Gen X. We in the building.
Turn
Yes,
turn
indeedy.
Turn up.
And next to me we have
I am Moya, the resident millennial,
yeah.
Generation Y.
Gen Y. in the
Gen Y
building.
sounds so crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just felt like throwing that in today.
That's cool.
And then I'm Jasmine. You're Gen Z or you're microwaver.
The microwave.
And together we are
Generational
Scriptures. Yeah.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
So we are gathered here today
sounded
to talk about. I know,
so
right?
interesting.
I don't know why I did that, but I just did. I thought it was funny. We are gathered here today to talk about Ruth.
Yes.
Yes.
Continuation.
We are, yes, our continuation of Ruth. We are in chapter 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, we need to do a recap so that anybody who hasn't seen, well, should we do a recap or should we just make people go back and watch?
We can recap chapter 2.
Okay.
Yes.
Go back to chapter 2 for the recap of chapter 1. Go back to chapter 1 for the episode, like, and some history, because there was history in chapter 1 that we gave. So
yeah, there was. All right, cool.
Yep.
So our expert recapper.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
expert
come on now.
recapper is crazy.
All right, so boom.
All right. So in chapter 2, we are first introduced to Boaz.
Ooh,
Super random.
I hear the theme music.
Right in the beginning, Boaz, the man, the myth. And also the legend, I guess. And he is a relative to Elimelech. I can never say that man's name right, but he's a relative to him, and we're introduced to him as that. And then we go back to Naomi and Ruth, who are back in Bethlehem, and Ruth is like, "Hey, mother-in-law, I'm about to go head out. get us some food because, we got to eat. Let me find someone who I can find favor in that'll let me glean. And so Naomi is like, go ahead. Like, just here, girl. Do what you want. Do whatever you please. So Ruth goes out and she comes upon Boaz's field because he owns the field. He has workers out there. And she asks for permission to glean with them. Eventually Boaz returns. He asks, who is this girl? They tell him who she is. Ruth is the person that came back with Naomi, and he kind of calls her, and he's basically like praising her for all that she's done so far. Like, you've done a lot to even come here in the first place. And he basically rewards her for that, allows her to be a part of his workers.
Right.
And for herself, basically, like, take what you can get. And he tells his workers, give her extra, actually, not even just the scraps, give her a good portion. So she stays with them. She eats with them. She has a meal with them. She has leftovers from that meal. Like, she's really being taken care of. He tells the guys, like, don't mess with her. Like, she is a foreigner, but she's also welcomed here. Right. Let's make her feel welcomed.
Yep.
Eventually she goes back to Naomi, and Naomi is like, girl, where you go? Because she has so much stuff. And normally with gleaning, we talked about in the last episode, like, you aren't supposed to get that much. Like, it should be enough to satisfy you, or at least hold you over. I wouldn't even say satisfy, hold you over. But it shouldn't be what Ruth collected.
Right.
And she tells her mother-in-law, like, everything that happened. And she's like, oh, Boaz, I know him. One of our redeemers. Like, excuse me? We had a redeemer the whole time. Right. And we sit here suffering. But, she was bitter. She didn't have time to think that far ahead. But yeah, I think that's kind of how that chapter ended out. Is us being told, hey, this is a redeemer for them.
Redeemer, right. Yeah. And excellent recap as always. And that sets us up for when we get into chapter 3.
Yeah.
All right. So you did all of that talking, and I think you
read
are
first.
Slated to read first.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. So Ruth chapter 3, verse 1 to 5. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, my daughter, should I not seek rest for you, that it may be well with you? Is not Boaz our relative, with whose young women you were? See, he is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. Wash, therefore, and anoint yourself, and put on your cloak, and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. But when he lies down, observe the place where he lies. Then go and uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do. And she replied, all that you say, I will do.
Okay. How we feel about Naomi? We still think she's bitter?
She's coming out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, after the provisions of the last chapter, it's like, oh, maybe there's something here.
Yeah, just like you said. She's like, why we have a redeemer, someone that you know of as a redeemer, right? But you didn't do anything about it. Now it's like the juices are flowing, for lack of a better term. She's thinking. I mean, it's interesting to me that this is her plan that she's putting out there to go and to do right now.
Yeah.
What did you think, Jasmine?
So I skipped out on my commentaries for this, and I had my own interpretations right in my little notes. And I didn't know how to take this, honestly, because I didn't know what she was getting at, like what Naomi was getting at, what she was trying to tell Ruth to do. Like, are you trying to go and have her sleep with him? Are you trying to have her just like, what is the intent of her going and uncovering his feet and like being near him in this time? I didn't understand the purpose.
Yeah.
Like, what's the goal?
Right.
Already, if he's the redeemer, it's not like you have to kiss up. Like, that's kind of what I was like, are we kissing up? Like, what is this for?
Yeah. And that's a good question. Those are good questions as to why. So let's start from the beginning, though, because I think we'll get to the why when we get particularly to the next set of verses. But I get it. It's interesting that Naomi knows exactly what's going to happen. And some of this, I think, is Naomi understanding the whole process that happens during the harvest. So they just finished the harvest in the last chapter. Now that we've got all of the sheaves, now I got to do something with them. And she knows that, after they harvest and after that, everybody goes up, and the people that are hired and the owners, such as Boaz, with the head nod again, like, yo, what's up? Let's go, winnow.
Let's go, winnow.
they gotta do all the winnowing, so they gotta separate the barley and all of that type of stuff from the shaft and from the coverings and all of that. So they do that, and I read that they usually do that at night because they need some set of wind, and they do it in a specific area where wind is. Is that what you saw?
Yeah, that's what I saw.
Yeah. So she knows what's going to happen, and I also read, and let me know if you saw this, that usually there's some sort of merriment, some sort of party, right? They get lit.
Well, I more so read. I didn't read that they got lit. I read that they they ate there and they drank, right? But they also had to kind of be alert because all of your grain is here. Yeah. So I don't know if you got turned up because you need to be a little sober. Yeah. But you drink to your content. Like they drank and that was normal for them. Yeah. But I don't know about getting turned. Right. Because you specifically have Boaz doing it, where you saw earlier his workers were the ones doing a lot of the work, and he was there kind of supervising. And now it's saying he's going to be like, now it's his turn to be hands on because this is his livelihood.
Right. He's going to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree. And I don't know because that's a very good point. And I think what we have to wrestle with as we go through this is what part of this is God moving on Naomi to do things and say things and set things up versus God moving to keep people versus what she knows. And I think it's a real combination of both, much like we saw in our first season, right? Because I don't know if Boaz had to be there, because I think I read that sometimes like the leader doesn't have to be there, but he may have just wanted to be there. Yeah. Right? Because he felt some real camaraderie with his people potentially, or he wanted to be hands-on to make sure nobody stole grain from him, just like you were saying. Yeah. But anyway, she knew he would be there. And so that's where she sent him. So what's interesting, before we get to the what she told her to do, how did Naomi tell Ruth to prepare herself?
Look good, smell good, hair done, nails did, everything did. Yeah. Make sure you clean.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a song that I don't know.
Yeah, it is a song. Even I know it.
It is a song. Yes. Everybody, all the Gen Zers, Gen Y, and some Gen X, you guys know that song. Leave it in the comments.
Yeah. I am in the house. Gen X doesn't do much, so I didn't know that. You know what song I thought of though?
Oh, you fancy.
Oh, you fancy, huh?
Yeah.
Is that what that
is?
That's
the same song.
Okay. I didn't know those were the words. I didn't know.
It's like the main part of the song.
Good. Okay.
No, not look good, smell good.
It's hair done, nails done, everything did.
Okay, cool. That's cool.
Yes.
I made me think of Johnny Gill, my. Put on your red dress.
Oh my goodness, that's very Gen X.
Put on them high heels. And put on that sweet perfume.
And that's why I was like, what's about to go down? Because why she? Okay, I feel like from like previous chapters, I didn't get like that inclination that that's the direction that Ruth would want to go. But then again, she's just doing as Naomi is telling her to do, right? She's just being obedient. But I was like, it seemed to be like now my thought of Boaz is so different now that you call him old man. At first I didn't think of it that way. So I was like, maybe potentially that's, that you see that a lot in the Bible, but I just didn't see that being where this was going to lead us. So I'm still just, as we keep going, we'll like unfold it all. But I was like, I'm confused. I put it in I highlighted all of that. Like, this is confusing.
I mean, I feel he noticed her already, but I think this is a notice me in a different way.
Right.
But I think because of the whole plan, the bigger plan, you want to be desirable. But I don't think it's a go sleep with them. I think it's make yourself look good. Like, for me to approach you, I need to know that I need to see something. Like, it goes back to the beginning, like when we were talking about Joseph and people kept seeing and seeing and seeing, like he looked good. And that's why I want to pursue him. Like, he's clean. I want to pursue him. And so it's the same type of, like, she's been working. You see her working. You see her doing all these things. But actually, she's a woman. Actually, she smells good sometimes. Actually, she washes up.
Yeah. Like, okay, I see what you mean.
Like, I think it's just presenting herself differently. And the uncovering her feet, people do try to make it seem like it could be a sexual thing. And I think, to me, just because of how everything else plays out, I don't think he did anything with her. Also, he woke up kind of like, what is happening? I think uncovering his feet might have been to wake him up, because she said, once you do that, he'll tell you what to do. But that man was asleep. He was sleeping too hard. Like, if somebody take the covers off my feet, I'm gonna be like, whoa, draft. But no, he was sleeping good. That wind was not affecting him.
Yeah. And I agree with all of that. Those are really good points. I don't think, in just thinking back, because some of this, I think we have to think back to how Boaz was introduced to us as this worthy man.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And how we've seen Ruth behaving up until now, where she's been very
respectful.
Yes,
yeah, thank
exactly.
you. To the customs and the laws, even though she's an outsider.
Yeah.
So that should set us up for how we're viewing this. Although I read the same thing. A lot of people take this to be like, yeah, it's not like that in this situation.
Yeah, and I think, like, too, we've talked a lot about, like, how Ruth as a book is written, and it's very strategic in the way the language is chosen. So even when I went back, like, just reading it for what it is, there were no specific terms, words called out that said this was a sexual encounter.
Right. Yeah,
it was very clear, like, you go and you lay with him. It's not like you go and you have sex or whatever. It was very specific. So I just was, I don't know, at first reading this the first time, I was like, I don't know what's going on here, but this is out of character, and I'm confused. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. Yep.
So I think I have down here that in my notes that it was really just a signal to Boaz, just like you were saying, like, hey, I'm here. I'm here, homeboy. So
not homeboy.
let's see what's going to happen. And all of this was just strategically set up by Naomi, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah,
it takes her from bitter, turning her around back to Naomi.
Yeah.
Just like us talking now, it's taken me from Chris Chris Mara, how I am now, feeling better because I get to talk scriptures with my friends.
Yeah. It also goes back to when we were talking about her feeling like she has to take care of her daughter-in-laws.
Oh, yeah, it's a really good point.
Yeah. So she's again like, hey, shouldn't I seek this for you?
Yeah.
So remember, I was trying to tell you.
And you make up a good point. You bring up a good point, even though I'll just say that you'll bring up a good point. Because even when you go back to chapter 1, verse 9, where she first talks about finding rest, she says it in the sense of, I want you to find rest. And the way that you'll find that rest is by leaving me, going back to your home so that you can find a husband.
Yeah.
And now that she's with her, she's saying, shouldn't I find rest for you? Shouldn't I help you find rest?
Yeah.
And the way that you will find that rest is by getting a husband.
Yeah.
Right? So when she says rest, even then and now, it's equated to being taken care of, being stable, and okay. Anything else from these first 5 verses?
I mean, Ruth is still obedient. She's still who she's been.
Yeah. She says, "Okey dokey.
Yeah.
I'll do as you say."
I love that for her.
But it was really all to get the attention of Boaz. It was really all to get the attention of Boaz. All right. Verses 6 through 13. So Ruth chapter 3, verses 6 through 13, and they read as follows. So she went down to the threshing floor and did just as her mother-in-law had commanded her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. Then she came softly and uncovered his feet and lay down. At midnight the man was startled and turned over, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. He said, "Who are you?" And she answered, "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your wings over your servant, for you are a redeemer." And he said, "May you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. You have made this last kindness greater than the first, and that you have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you ask, for all my fellow townsmen know that you are a worthy woman. And now it is true that I am a redeemer. Yet there is a redeemer nearer than I. Remain tonight, and in the morning, if he will redeem you, good, let him do it. But if he is not willing to redeem you, then as the Lord lives, I will redeem you. Lie down until the morning." All right. So the happenings happen.
Mm-hmm.
What do we think about Ruth and her approach, and Boaz not getting lit or too turned up, but his heart was merry?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting that, well, for one, as you guys talked about before, that Naomi knew exactly how things were going to fall out, and they happened just that way. But also, like, I was also kind of interested in why Boaz was surprised that she was lying there.
Because he went to sleep and nobody was there. He woke up and somebody was there. Like,
yeah, but is this not something that just happens?
What do you mean?
Because why would Naomi tell Ruth to go and follow these specific steps to go uncover his feet and lie at his feet if that wasn't something that was done?
I feel like it's not something that was done. I don't think, because at least I haven't seen anywhere else in the Bible where they're saying, go do this, or this is a sign to pick your redeemer. So we already had instructions for how to ask a redeemer. And you remember the whole spitting in his face and taking his shoe or whatever, like those were the instructions. I think, and I don't know, and we'll get to it, but there was a point, I think in chapter 4, where when he's talking to the other redeemer, but it's a little bit different than what we saw in the story of Tamar and Judah. So and of course this is also the time where people are doing whatever they want to do, because we talked about that in chapter 1. So it may have been, everybody's not going to do the redeemer thing, nobody cares anymore, everybody's doing their own thing, so let's go ask him nicely. And
that spurs his response, because it was much different than I would have anticipated. Like, he woke up, he's startled. I'm like, girl, get out my room. Like, please get out my space.
Leave my grain pile now.
And instead he's like, no, like, it's, may you be blessed by the Lord. I'm like,
right. So let's unpack that a little bit. So some of my reading, right, since this was a time of festivity, there were some that might be there that would take, and here we go, start it up again, take prostitutes and stuff coming through.
Yeah.
Right. So some of his startlement, him being startled, may be like, why are you here when I know some of the other types of people that are coming? And I think that also plays into the thing of like, don't stay here until the morning, right? Because we don't want anybody to get the wrong idea as to why you're here, right? So I think that's one of the reasons he was startled. I also think that it's not just, how do I say this? These actions, I don't think, are just to get the Redeemer. I think it's really to have Boaz recognize that Ruth is available, and that she's willing to, be courted. And actually, an interesting thing, I don't know if you all picked up on it, but Remember, in the last set of verses, Naomi said, go, uncover his feet, lie at his feet. When he wakes up, he'll tell you what to do. She didn't quite do that. Did y'all pick up on that?
I did not.
Right. When he said, who are you? And she answered, I am Ruth, your servant. And then she says this thing that's interesting. Spread your wings over your servant, for you are a redeemer. Did anybody pick up on what that? So one, to my first point, she didn't just say, I'm Ruth and, I'm here. Like, what do you want to do? She actually started speaking. And then when she said, spread your wings over your servant, that's got some big connotations.
Yes.
Because I think that is Ruth asking Boaz to marry her.
Oh. Did not think that. Especially because when I looked at the, like, what spread your wings could mean, it's like for your garments to come over them,
to cover them.
So I
in a sense of protection and taking care of.
Yes, so I got the protection and taking care of thing, but I didn't go as far as marriage. That's so interesting.
Some of the commentaries I read, and when you go and read commentaries on Ruth, so I think this is where me and Moyo had our thing. I went back and I read the commentary I read originally and read another commentary, and they don't always agree because the wording in here is symbolic. So I think some people are trying, and not symbolic in a bad way, like it's a bunch of symbols, but the word choices and such can lead you down one direction or the other.
Yeah.
And so even some of the best commentaries, and I go to a site and I look up the top 3 commentaries, and I usually look at those, they differ, right? So in the commentaries I looked at, that spread your wings over your servant, which really means like your maid servant or your maid in the Hebrew, is almost like put your garment over me, which means that we're betrothed basically. We're looking. You're going to protect and care for me. You're going to marry me. You're going to be that one. And then she said, as a redeemer, and I think we'll see why that's important. And the redeemer aspect as we get into chapter 4. So I don't know. Does that make sense to y'all? Do you see that?
I think it does make sense. I'm in chapter 2. Boaz said a similar thing. She was taking like the wing of Yahweh over her.
Yep.
So we're all the bride of Christ, right? So it's the same like idea.
Yep.
I guess it also follows because I was questioning why he said, and now it is true that I am your redeemer, yet there is a redeemer nearer than I. So then I was thinking, okay, is he saying there's a man out there who could also redeem you in whatever way that means, potentially with the like pursuing her, court her, marry her kind of thing? That's when I started, that follows now. That makes sense. But before I was thinking, first of all, the word now, why is he saying he's now, like, and now it is true that I am a redeemer? Why is it now?
Yeah. No, I think that he is just emphasizing the point that he is a redeemer.
Yeah.
There's no change in his status. It's not like he became a redeemer.
Okay, I was about to say.
So when we think of redeemer, did you get a chance to look up what the redeemer is?
Other than, you mean like, I think we talked about redeemers already.
Other than
previously.
The same, if it's
from
in the same
Judah
context,
and Tamar.
I am so old. I do not remember us talking about.
We
Judah in last season.
Yeah, Judah and Tamar and the whole redeemer, and like that's so the first brother died, and then the next one takes it. So there's an order in which the redeemer like line works basically. So maybe he's a second cousin and this person is a first cousin or something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's a brother or something that's closer because there's a hierarchy to things. I want to say
and I think the thing I'll piggyback on that with is in this time now, right? We have to look at the difference between when we looked at, I'm going to forget his son's names, Onan and their happenings, that was before they had received the land, which is important in this context.
Okay.
We're looking at a time after the 12. So back then we were looking at the 12 tribes being established. And I think we talked about this in the opening, right?
Yeah.
Them going to Goshen, them living in Goshen, them coming out. And in Joshua, they get to the promised land. And in Joshua, they start to divvy the land, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's important because God gave that land to them. So while the Redeemer or levirate marriage or a form of it we saw back in Joseph, now there's a little more to it because not only is the line of the family being kept important, but also the ownership of the land for that family is important, right? And so now when we think of Redeemer, there's like another added on stack to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think it comes up more in the next chapter.
It definitely comes up more in the next chapter. But to your point, I think you agree with me that he's not saying, and now, like, I became a Redeemer.
No,
he is one already.
Yeah, I was going to say, because in the previous chapter, I thought we already established that. So now I'm confused.
I think it's just how you speak.
Yeah.
Like now, I mean, this is what it is, but like that.
Okay, got you.
Yep.
Okay, makes sense.
And so anything else stick out to you all in these verses?
We see he old.
Yeah.
He is old.
That man been old. I don't know why I thought. I mean, he could be a swaggy old man, but he's definitely old.
I'm saying Morris Chestnut. I'm thinking of him now. He's a swaggy dude.
Gosh.
I'm not gonna call him old because I don't know how old he is in reference to me. It's because he dyes his hair.
I also thought it was interesting here that he said he acknowledges her as a worthy woman. And we've already acknowledged him as a worthy man. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm like, okay, we're looking at a match.
Right.
I found that so interesting because before, I don't know, I can't recall. I don't believe up until now that's happened. Like he's really acknowledged her as just outside of like working and he gives her food and everything, but acknowledging her as like a woman apart, like how you were saying before, like apart from everything that she does, just as her standing by herself. So I thought that was nice.
Yeah. It made me think of that viral show with the balloons.
Oh my God.
We got a match.
I've never watched that.
Don't do it. It's brutal.
The episodes are really long.
They are. Some of them are funny. But anyway, so we've got that going on where there is that worthy statement made of Ruth, right? Anything to you have made this last kindness greater than the first. Yeah. What do you think the first kindness is?
Her coming. Her even being here. Yeah. So. But the first in that you have not gone after young men.
Right. Yeah.
Whether rich or poor.
Yep.
Because she's not married yet? Is she? Oh, yeah. Well, but she was married, but.
Yeah. But
she could have found pretty much anyone she wanted because to me, she doesn't have the kids to tie her down to this family. So she's a eligible bachelorette. Like she's free to do whatever she wants, as Orpah did. Orpah went back home and can do whatever. And so Ruth could do the same. I don't have anything tying me to you. I could easily just go get remarried to someone else, someone younger, someone who I know, could provide for me. Mm-hmm. And I think we know that Boaz can provide for her, but at the same time, we also know he's older. Mm-hmm. Does she want that?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the kindness is that you came and took care of Naomi, right? Mm-hmm. You came to glean. She didn't. You're looking after her. You're keeping her, lifting her spirits as best you can. You're the one that didn't leave her abandoned. And now I think he's also saying that this greater kindness is, in a way, by you sort of asking me to marry you, you're still really looking after her, right?
Yeah.
Now
Keeping
you're
it in the family.
right, making sure everything stays in the family, making sure that she's going to be taken care of, not just by you. This is even a greater kindness than the first. And to your point, which really solidified it, you could have gone after anybody, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of people out here, but you didn't. You went after a redeemer,
Yeah.
right? Someone who could benefit not just you, but also Naomi.
Yeah.
Right. So we also see that he's like, all right, I'm down. Let's
As
do this.
long as though,
right,
it's clauses to it.
It is.
If the nearest won't, I will. But
Right.
Yeah.
Then I'm down. You're good, and tells her to wait until the morning.
Yeah, and I feel like that also shows his character again, because this other guy is. It doesn't seem like he would. Well, later on we see it doesn't seem like he's even aware of what's going on. Like why is no one else seeing what's going on?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting.
And it was also interesting to me that Naomi doesn't bring up this other redeemer in all this time. It's like Boaz doesn't make her think, oh, well, there's someone closer than Boaz to us.
Yeah.
Once Boaz's name is mentioned, at least Scripture doesn't record that she thinks of anyone else. She's like, boom, Boaz. That's the one. Right?
yeah, well, I also think like we know that she was like down in the slums, down in the dumps during that time, So like finding the first sign of hope was like enough. That's kind of what I thought of.
So she was like,
him, please,
and maybe
hold on
she didn't know all of the relatives. Maybe she didn't know all the possible redeemers. She's been gone for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been bitter, so she hasn't had time to ask around, like, oh, who's still alive? Who's dead? Who's
maybe.
like?
I mean, that could be it.
I feel like she's just thinking, we don't know how many siblings he had, we don't know how many cousins he had, but how many does she keep up with? None, because she comes back. The women recognize her, but it doesn't seem like she goes and does anything with the women. She's in this room from the time that Ruth left and came back. It seemed like she just kind of was like to myself.
Like, yeah. All right. So, anything from these 8 verses, 7 verses else we need to touch on? Very good.
Right.
Jasmine?
So this is going to be Ruth chapter 3, verses 14 through 18. So she lay at his feet until the morning, but arose before one could recognize another. And he said, let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. And he said, bring the garment you are wearing and hold it out. So she held it, and he measured out 6 measures of barley and put it on her. Then she went into the city, and when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, how did you fare, my daughter? Then she told her all that the man had done for her, saying, these 6 measures of barley he gave to me. For he said to me, you must not go back empty-handed to your mother-in-law. She replied, wait, my daughter, until you learn how the matter turns out, for the man will not rest, but will settle the matter today.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Man. Naomi is putting a lot of trust in Boaz. So y'all see that?
Yeah. Well,
he's a worthy man.
Yeah, and he's a worthy man, and it's the only speck of hope she's had this far. And it's working out. Like, it's not like it's going south, and there's no sign of like ill intent. And we know that Boaz has already said that he's going to protect Ruth, and he's giving them an abundance. So
he's proving himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, even I don't know. I can be slow about things sometimes. It's usually because I'm thinking and contemplating a bunch of stuff. But even to the point where she's like, we know he's going he gonna handle this business today.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Her assurance.
It's just like, if it was Chris, he'd be like, give him a week. We'll get around to it. Because Chris would be ruminating and thinking and like, man, is this really, I don't know. But good thing it wasn't Chris. So what else in these couple of verses sticks out to you all?
Well, I think it's interesting that Boaz says not to tell anyone that she was there. So I know we talked about that in the last few verses. So my mind went both ways. I understand like the prostitution was a thing, and but I was thinking that having her stay might look worse than having her leave. And
but it was midnight when he woke up and saw her. So we know it's not safe. So unless he walks her home, which again may look some type of way, or sends her by herself, I think both scenarios are kind of like not ideal.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think I looked at that as him trying to protect her, because we've already talked about like the other young men like who were in the fields, like telling them like not to touch her and stuff. I thought it was more so for safety, but why does it matter if anyone knows that she was there, other than them just thinking that they did something that they didn't do?
Yeah. I think that was important. Yeah. And that's why it says, so she lay at his feet until the morning, but arose before anyone could recognize her. So I think the author here is trying to say that it's like the lighting or the timing or whatever is like no one would be able to tell who she was unless they really knew her.
Okay.
It is interesting that it says, he said, let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. Who is he talking to?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Because he's not talking to her.
Yeah, no, I think he's talking to her.
Really?
That's what we care. That's what he's worried about. He doesn't want anybody to know that she came.
But why not say, let it be known that you?
Yeah.
Let it be known that the woman. It sounds author. Like, and that's maybe there was one or two people that he was like escort her out. That's what I was thinking. Like, get her out of here. Because also the amount of barley he gives her, when I looked it up, it was like 30 pounds.
Yeah.
To be like, here, girl, 30 pounds of barley. Take that with you. That's a lot.
Women were sturdy and
not sturdy.
Nah, but I don't know. I don't think, because he wants to keep it this way, I don't know that he would tell anybody. Because I think that he doesn't want her reputation to be sullied any.
I can agree.
Because he already thinks worthily, right? We just talked about that and we looked that word up before. So I'm not sure that he would be like a Jim Bob and Joe
Not
Smo.
Jim Bob, but trusted person. If I had a Joseph, hey Joseph, take her home and make sure she gets home safe.
Especially because next he said to bring the garment you are wearing and hold it out. So he's very specific there with like talking to, it sounds like he's talking to Ruth. Bring your garment. She held it out. They measured the barley and then she went into the city. So that's specifically Ruth. So, and then right before we're saying, let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. Like, I don't know. It just sounds like someone else involved.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Not that it matters, but I mean, it's just interesting.
Yeah.
Especially because it had to be hush.
Right.
I was thinking like we were just talking about Boaz and Ruth. But interesting.
Yeah, it is. Let us know what you all think.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
When you look it up and do some reading on your own. So measured out 6 measures.
So that's a lot. He wants to go hungry.
So what's interesting is it doesn't tell you what the measure was.
Yeah.
Did you pick that up? It doesn't tell you what it is. So don't think it's an ephah, which is what she brought back. Because what did I write down? I think I said that the ephah could weigh up to 200 pounds. So
but this could fit in her jacket though.
Yeah, this could fit,
which could still be a lot depending on how you hold that cloak.
Right. Yeah. And so that's what I'm with you. And there's a seah, which is like a third of an ephah. And then there is an omer. And they said, like you just said, 18 to 30 pounds is what?
Yeah. I saw like either 30 pounds or like 2.5 gallons or like different. It could be whatever. I just know it was a lot.
So why did he do that?
I think as a way to say, first of all, don't go back empty handed. I want your mother-in-law to know that you actually followed her instructions. You came here and I'm making a promise to you that if this person doesn't do it, so no matter what, you're going to be redeemed. Either he will redeem you or I will redeem you.
So you think it was a promise as well as going back not empty-handed to your mother-in-law?
It's like proof that you came and also a promise that something will be done.
I thought it was just so that you're not out here wandering the streets empty-handed. Somebody thought that you went and was like, I really need food, so I worked extra so that when I walked
bright and early though.
Hey, so I can see both of them though, and we know he says here is so that your mother-in-law, you must not go back empty-handed to your mother-in-law. So he was definitely thinking about that.
Yeah,
that's why I just feel like all of this, well, not all of it, because Ruth is who she is, but like her dedication to her mother-in-law is just consistently being rewarded. And I think Boaz recognizes that the good that she's doing with her mother-in-law is a part of what makes her that worthy woman. So that's why I think that it wasn't a mistake. It was explicit that he mentioned, like, you must not go back empty-handed to your mother. Now, not here so you don't go hungry, but this is not just for you. This is for both of you. That was very specifically called out.
Yeah.
Which is good, especially considering like Naomi didn't even want her to come.
Right. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I think didn't want the girl to come, but
her presence is keeping you guys fed.
Yep.
You're being redeemed.
Yep.
Like all of it's really.
Well, the redeeming part, I've got to give Naomi some credit.
I'll give her a little bit. She should have said it.
Because she set up the plan.
Yeah.
If she didn't say this is what's going to happen, then Ruth may not have known to even go and do all of that stuff.
It's true. Even though I wish she was a little bit quicker on her feet with that information.
That girl was ready to go. She was ready to go. She was like, I'm over life. Everybody did. I don't want to be here anymore.
I mean, that's an interesting contrast between Tamar and Naomi.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's an interesting contrast between the two.
But Tamar was young though.
She was young.
Tamar is like, I got a lot of life to live.
Yeah.
I feel like Naomi's like, any day now, I could be out of here.
I'm gone.
I don't even need it. I don't need this.
I didn't live. Didn't live the life.
And it's just a difference in the way, like, Tamar was like, I'm going to go get it. Like, what I want, I'm going to go get it. You're not going to, it's like, you're not going to play with me. Y'all are trying to play me, and we're not playing these games. Versus Naomi's like, life is happening to me, and there's nothing, like, I'm just going to be here. It is what it is.
That's I like that.
Yeah. I'm much more a Tamar fan. but I will say, I mean, in both instances, they're getting what they want in a sense, but differently.
Yeah.
And Tamar, like I said, she was very much like, I'm going after this because as life was happening, she was moving with it. Whereas Naomi was kind of sulking, But now, once she like saw that glimmer of hope, now she's up and at 'em. She's like, okay, so now we got to devise this plan, and now this is how this is going to work out, and the steps are being taken, so it's working positively in her favor.
I think I would say even in Tamar's story, though, it's not an immediate thing either. She waited for that boy to grow up.
I know.
So it was a minute.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that aspect.
Yeah.
She had waited for the youngest son, Selah, to be.
So then she was fed up.
Yeah, after how many years? That man could have been 3 and now he's 18 or whatever.
No, but I still agree that Tamar was way more proactive than Ruth until, and even then it's Ruth, and maybe the age difference is why, but it's Ruth sort of putting it on someone else to go and do the work, where Tamar was just like,
Naomi.
Yeah, Naomi was putting it on Ruth to go and do the work, where Tamar was like, I'm about to get this bag. No, that's not what she said. But what's also interesting to me in this, and this just came to me, is that I think there's something to the way that Tamar went about her business, right? We would not say, I don't know if you all agree, but I wouldn't say that it's upstanding upright. She did some lying and put herself in some weird positions. But on this opposite end for Naomi, I also wouldn't say that upstanding's not the right word, but she just didn't act or move until things started happening, right? There's something about going about it and doing it wrong, but there's also something about being blasé and having a laissez-faire attitude about things, right? Like, nah, I'm just going to sit here and waste away, and that's it, right? I think that, even in that, there's still something that doesn't sit right with God, and you having that type of attitude. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I saw. I was talking to one of the ladies at my church. We were talking about like how good things come to those who work and not wait or whatever. And I was always so confused by that, because I was like, people tell you to pray, and then like, what do you want me to do? If I pray and I start doing stuff, what is that? What if that's not what God wants me to be doing? Like, why don't I just wait? And then some people said, well, you're waiting, sitting around, like nothing's gonna happen for you. Like, God wants you to make the first step. So I think sometimes it's like, if you're waiting, if you've prayed and you're like actively seeking God and you're waiting, from what I've been told, you still have to make a first step. Like, you have to consciously make a step, and then God will redirect you, and then you pray again and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes I feel like it's hard to differentiate whether you're being lazy or if you're just being obedient.
Right. And I get that, but Naomi was bitter. Naomi had seemingly, and I think we asked this in the first chapter, was like, where was her hope?
Right.
At that point, I don't think her hope was in the Lord.
Absolutely not. No.
Or I don't know if she had any hope at all, as aside from when she was trying to get Orpah and Ruth away from her.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to sit here with her and die, and y'all go away, and getting back and not recognizing that Ruth, who's with her, would actually be the one who gave her hope, showed her light, would ultimately, just as you said, be that one who gets you to a redeemer. That she was thinking that, just why she's like, I'm empty, I came back, I'm all alone,
Sure. Yeah,
right?
She definitely was not doing the work.
So even if it's not laissez-faire, because I can get what you're saying, sometimes it can be difficult to know when to wait, when to move, right? And I think a lot of that comes in wisdom and age and the application of scripture. That's what I call wisdom. Wisdom is the application of knowledge. So what I learned from scripture, I grow, and wisdom is me actually using that in the right places at the right times. But I take Naomi a step further in the fact of how her view of the Lord and her situation was also.
Yeah, I agree.
But the key point to that, I think, is that in both of those situations, the Lord was able to use both of those, I call those agents, to get done what he wants to get done.
For sure. Yeah.
Right? So don't think that anyone anywhere is outside of the Lord's ability to work through people to get his will accomplished. And we just see that over and over and over again. So that was just an interesting thought that came to my mind just now.
I like it.
With that, anything else that we want to talk about? Because this is the chapter. Anything else from the chapter, from the Ruth and Boaz meeting? Do y'all think that everybody should be finding a Boaz type of man yet? Or well, we all married, so we got. I got a wife. I was like, how do I translate Boaz into a female name?
Yeah.
But you all have y'all Boazes already. Yeah. Shout out to the husbands.
And do we have Boazes? We don't have Boazes. We have Malin and Killians, or whatever they are. We have the first husbands. We don't got no redeemers.
Okay. True.
That's valid.
But they are worthy men.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Worthy men.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Can't let these men have too much.
Okay. Anyway. All right.
Good wrap up.
I love my husband.
All right. On that note, we getting out of here right now. Look, like, subscribe, notification bell, comment,
share with the friends.
Share with friends.
Yeah.
But thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
Generational Scriptures in the building once again. Signing off, and we are out of here.
Bye.
Deuces.
Peace.